Countries aren't shaped in a day. They require the blood and sweat of individuals who are willing to give them their all. Hello everyone, I'm Mannsi Agrawal and you're watching If I Had Not Failed on News 24. My guest today is a legend. His career and life have not only been monumental but transformational for the whole country. He was the first Finance Secretary of Nepal and also the first Governor of the Nepal Rashtra Bank. He is the man who is responsible to unify the currency of the country and to give us the money that we know and use today, and how he pegged it also against the Indian rupee. He is a legend. He is somebody who's so aware and yet so polite and so graceful. My conversation with him today is certainly going to be like an unfolding of history, a page from the chapter in the history of Nepal itself. Let's welcome with a lot of pride, Mr. Himalaya Shamsher Jang Bahadur Rana. Namaste sir, thank you so much for sharing with us your words, and thank you so much for agreeing to come to this show. It gives me a lot of pleasure and it's my honor that we have you with us here today. Thank you so much, sir.
Mannsi ji, thank you for coming to my house and thank you for scheduling this interview in the month of Phalgun, because when the month of Phalgun comes, I feel rejuvenated for two reasons. One is, I remember the famous line from Jayadev's Geet Govinda, Basante Basante Kusuma Sukumare Rabhavi, and also Shelley's famous line, if winter comes, can spring be far behind. So, greetings of the season to you.
To you too, sir. Thank you so much for hosting us at your wonderful place. I can see flowers everywhere. Of course, we can see the spring blooming now. And it's wonderful that I get a chance to talk to you, not just about spring, but also about all the things that you've learned in this beautiful long journey of so many years and so many springs and winters and summers of your life. My first question to you, sir, as always is, what do you consider your greatest failure and why?
I did reasonably well in my academic studies, but I never secured first division marks. And I was very interested in earning a doctorate, but I stopped at masters. So I failed in getting a PhD. So my grandson is now, he has done 2 years for PhD in George Mason University in America. What I couldn't do, my grandson is doing.
So you think that one of the biggest failures of your life is that you could not study as much as you wanted to?
Exactly.
How did that make you feel at that point when you were younger and you were all excited and charged up to study?
Well, I was good in studies, so I did my matriculation, SLC examination at the age of 14. And I did my intermediate easily, bachelor's easily, master's also easily. So I was very keen to do my PhD, but that was the Rana regime, and you had to get the permission of the Rana Prime Minister to do it. I was told that that's enough.
So somebody else decided whether you would study or not. At this point, when you wanted to study, and being me myself, I wanted to study as well. I was a very eager and keen student, but I could not study because of other pressures. How did you deal with it at that young age when you wanted to study and you were already thinking about contributing to the nation and you could not? How did you deal with that?
Well, there's an interesting thing. When I appeared for the master's examination in Bombay, I came to Calcutta. And in Calcutta, I met Congress leader Rana Shamsher. And there we had a long chat, what I can do to improve the condition, dire condition of the people of Nepal, to see that there is a constitution and the country is run according to the constitution. So he persuaded me to join Nepali Democratic Congress. It was very dangerous. It was treason at that time. I was a Rana and also a Rana in the role of successor. I could be the Prime Minister of Nepal. When I returned back, I devoted myself in secretly organizing democratic movement in the country.
How difficult was that when you thought you were doing something different from what was expected of you, let's say?
It was difficult.
It was?
Very difficult.
How old were you at this point?
in my 20s.
In your 20s. What gave you that motivation to sort of take this step and to go into something that was so uncharacteristic maybe of people of your time or the society that you were in?
Very good question. I was raised in a feudalistic way, as you know. I was a Rana. I did my, up to my intermediate studies, I did it in Nepal itself. But I spent 4 years in Bombay doing my PA and MA. That move from Kathmandu to Bombay made a great impression on my life. I became a commoner. From a feudal, I became a commoner. Because the servants there in the hostel did not address me as Huzur. They said, Sahib, tum kya mangta hai?
Right.
And then I had to go to the college, riding in the public bus, carrying 4 or 5 books in my hand, and it was, I became a commoner. And then at that time in Bombay, there were every day almost, or every week, there would be demonstration, Quit India movement, etc. And I used to go and listen to Acharya Kripalani and other Congress leaders. So that I became enamored with Inqilab Zindabad. So I have written a book, and in the one chapter, the caption is Inqilab Zindabad. So when I came to Nepal, I became involved in this movement.
It's amazing because when you said that, I could see 2 parallel stories sort of unfolding at the same time. One, a young child who goes from a very different family and a very different social setup into a place where he's left to fend for himself almost without any kind of support that you would normally have in Kathmandu and in your life here. And the other thing is that you were exposed to a lot of democratic and a lot of different radical thoughts. Which of these?
Gandhiji, for instance.
Of course, of course. I can actually see the history of both Nepal and India unfolding as you say these stories, because these are things I've read only in my history books, and to hear it from you is fascinating. But which of these things do you think was more important in shaping you? The fact that you went out of the home and you were let go and you were not a part of this system and the support that you had was suddenly taken away from you, or the fact that you were exposed to these radical thoughts?
It's very important. It changed my life because 2 things. One is made me a sort of revolutionary. Secondly, I had to appear for my bachelor's degree, I had to study Sanskrit. And in the curriculum, there was Gita. So Gita, the teachers, I was shocked when the teacher told me that the Gita is not something divine, which was pronounced by the Lord Krishna or something. It is actually a Sankhya philosophy, a mixture of Sankhya and other philosophy. So, and then what is the lesson of it? Because I had to give examination in Gita. So the essence of Gita I found out was, do your duty, whatever the circumstances, adverse or helpful. And that's should be the purpose of your life. And that has shaped my whole attitude to life. So the Bombay was very important in my life from those points of view.
Wow. So you took in the learnings from the Gita and the exposure from the radical thoughts that you were getting, and that shaped you and that changed your life probably, irreversibly, and you could never become that same person that you were again.
I became a socialist, for instance.
Right.
And a Democrat.
Great. So when you came back to Nepal, how did your life unfold after that? Because at that point was a very interesting time in the history of this country as well. How did your life unfold?
Well, I came back, so as a Rana, I had a position. I was made Lieutenant Colonel. So I used to attend the parade. Then 2 years, I finished my master's in 49. 51 there was a political change. The 2 years I was attending the military courses, etc., marksmanship, how to attack, how to defend, that sort of thing. Every weekdays, 2 hours in the morning or 2 hours in the afternoon. Otherwise, it was life as usual in the feudal setup in the house. but I was secretly used to draft leaflets and the cut stencil, duplicate it and distribute it at night, something like that.
You're almost talking about like a film story. It's so like unreal when I hear this, because not only is this history, now this looks like you were doing something so meaningful and so important to you, yet the world outside could possibly not really know about it or could not really guess. What was your biggest struggle at this point?
Oh, the Rana intelligence was very tight. It was extremely difficult to do things without people knowing about it. There was no system of sitting in the room with doors closed. So when I wrote the leaflet and cut the stencil, it required 3 to 4 hours work, closing the door of the room. And people used to wonder what was he doing. And I think that servants working in our house, servants working in my other families, they all live in the same rent room and they discuss what happened. So in my master's house, his son was closeted in the room for 4 hours. I don't know what he was doing. So that sort of thing, and that would reach the Prime Minister's office. The CID system was.
It's almost like the social media of the olden times when things would just go from one to the other, and wow, that's amazing to hear. So now let's forward a few years when you came into the economic system and you were really shaping the economy of the country as a whole. Of course, you have unified the currency that we use today, the Nepali currency. Can you tell me something more about that time of your life, that phase of your life? What was it like to come up with this idea or to know about it? Of course, as a student of economics, you did understand the importance of having a proper currency. But how much of work did it take for you to actually be able to push this out there and to get everybody to accept it?
When I was given this assignment, they said it was mission impossible.
Did you believe it as well?
Well, I was young and energetic and always thinking of doing your best to achieve something. So I accepted the assignment. It was actually, the whole proposal was, the credit goes to King Mahendra. In his kingdom, he felt very unwelcome that Nepalese currency was legal tender in Kathmandu and the hill districts. But in the whole Tarai region, from Kailali to Ilam, Nepalese currency was not only not in circulation, but it was not legal tender. The government of Nepal itself did not accept land revenue in Nepalese rupee. The government offices, when they have to collect some fees, they also collect in Indian rupees. So he said that this dual currency system should end. So Nepalese currency should displace the Indian currency. So in order to do that, a mechanism was needed. So he thought that Nepal Rashtra Bank should be established. In banking terminology, it is a central bank, but and the normal central bank duties are different. But this Rashtra Bank was established with the to carry out the normal central bank duties, but also to tackle two things. One is to displace the Indian currency and replace it with Nepalese currency, and stabilize the rate of exchange between the Indian currency and Nepalese rupee in the valley. Right. So those two challenges were posed to me, and I said, "Can you tackle it? Will you accept it?" So I accepted, and I became the governor.
Absolutely.
And then I realized that people in the Tarai who shop one in the heart, 1 week in the Nepalese territory, next week in the Indian territory, and they have their children studying in India. So why would they accept Nepalese rupee just by the order of the government? They will accept readily only if they can convert Nepalese rupee to Indian rupee, Nepalese rupee, very freely, very easily. No red tape, nothing. So the question was that is the solution. In order to make Indian Nepalese currency acceptable in Tarai, the exchange mechanism has to be established. So I established the branches of the Rashtra Bank and sub branches, exchange depots, 70 exchange depots all over Tarai. So the mechanism was there. Then I had to find out, once we declare that from this day the Indian currency will be replaced by Nepalese rupee, when they come to exchange their Indian rupees, how much? So I had to find out. There was no mechanism for that. So it took me 3 years through my branches, depots, etc. to find out in every area how much Indian currency was circulation. So once we declare that, they come, if they come with all their Indian currency for exchange, we should be able to offer the Nepalese rupee.
And it still stands today, and you created history in so many ways. Because what you were telling me was, of course, just about notes and currency, but also the economic implications of these things are so far out there. I mean, there are so many other things that happen as a result of a pegging or a simple rate up and down, and
well,
the fact that you created the economy in a way.
Nepal was, in those days, the economic activities used to be carried out in pockets, like Viratnagar area, economic activities, Eastern Tarai area through Jogbani, Central area through Raksor, something like that. Now there was no east-west highway. Because of the one currency in the whole country, one step was taken to unify the economy of Nepal.
Such a huge difference a currency can make, just holding that piece of paper.
And the pegging of the value of the Indian rupee at 160 greatly helped the investors and the industrialists, because they did not have to contend with the foreign exchange risk of foreign exchange fluctuation. Sometimes you work very hard to establish an industry, market it, but because of the foreign exchange fluctuation, it becomes a lossful thing. So this solid pillar, the template was there.
That's amazing. Seriously, I feel like we as a younger generation, me as a student of economics, it's something so invaluable that I get to hear from the man who literally, in a lot of ways, unified the country, not just because of the notes, but also because of the perception. People suddenly felt like they were more together and they were more connected, because that one note had such a huge implication on the overall economy and still continues to do today. In this long, very illustrious career of yours, what has been the most demanding role that you've ever had to fulfill? This one?
As the governor.
As the governor. As the governor. Because later on you have been chairman of a bank and all of that. Yet the governorship was the most complicated?
Before I became the governor, the finance secretary.
Right.
There also I had an opportunity to remodel the financial system.
Right.
To make it from a sort of a private affair of the Rana Prime Minister to make it public.
Open it up.
Start excise duty, start income tax, modernize the customs department, establish financial rules, revise the pay system. The messenger used to get 9 rupees per month. So we brought it to first time 30 rupees. So the epoch-making change in the financial system, well, I had already done.
Right. So you've had a very long career. You've worked in the past.
5 years as finance secretary, 5 years
as the governor. As the first governor of the country, you've seen a lot. You've literally brought the entire economy together in a lot of ways. You've got a huge impact and a huge role and a huge contribution in that. Versus today, where do you see the changes? And what do you think are the new challenges for the people at the helm of affairs today?
Well, we are talking of 1955, when I was became the governor, 55 to 60. the business was done in a very, not in a modern way. Very simple trading was to be done. But now it has become very complicated. There are more banks. We used to import mostly things from India. Now we import from Korea, Japan, from all sorts of countries. And then there is digitalization. It's more challenging. I think it is more challenging for the governor now than it was to me.
As a person who sent notes via another country into his own country is saying that. You've seen the toughest times, according to me, when I think back and when I was actually visualizing the story that you said. It seemed so challenging and so complicated to me, yet you say that today's era and today the challenges are greater for the world. Is it because of digitalization, or is it because people have changed, people's expectations have changed?
Because we import many more things than what we did in 55, 60. Cars. We used to get only British cars or Indian cars. Now we have cars from everywhere. Perfumes, watches. The other day, a friend of mine insisted on serving Don Perignon champagne. I said, "Can you really buy it?" He went looking for it. No. One place it was found. 27,000 rupees, but it was there. Don Perignon champagne also is there.
So you can pretty much get anything that you want in this country now. Great. Sir, tell me one thing. You also mentioned that your grandson is now doing his PhD. How does it feel for you to actually see this again, this change?
I feel very happy.
You feel proud?
I feel very happy. He is very bright. When he did his masters, he got Beta Gamma Sigma. And then now he is accepted. He is doing PhD in George Mason University, Washington, D.C.
Is he fulfilling like a wish of yours which you wish you had?
Yeah.
Yes?
And what I couldn't do, couldn't do, he is doing it.
He is doing it. And that makes you feel proud. Of course, as a grandfather, I'm sure it does make you feel really great. So what do you think we need to do now? Our generation, your grandson's generation, he must be a lot younger than me, but say around people of my age, our age. What do you think are some of the ways that we can contribute in making Nepal the economy that we dream of, the economy we deserve to have?
Well, there has been a lot of progress in human resources development. People have been going to school, going to colleges, they have been going to Australia, going to America, studied there, come back. But there is no opportunity for them to use their knowledge in doing economic business in Nepal for two reasons. One is the politicians are more interested in setting things, issuing policy and implementing things in such a way that they profit from it, but not doing things in a way that employment opportunities are there for many more people who have studied. And the other thing is corruption. So people now, there is no alternative for people except to send their children abroad. If you check, most of the sons and grandsons of the middle class families, especially bureaucrats, their sons and grandsons are all abroad. They are not here. So this is a great loss of this talent to the country. We have to create jobs, and there are people who can do the jobs, but there is no opportunity.
What is the best method to retain this talent in the country? Creating jobs, of course. How can we as youngsters, not just the government of course has its own role to play in terms of policy making and all of that, but what can people like us do? Because we want to. I know for a fact there's a whole generation that's waiting to serve.
The other day there was an interview taken by Nepal radio, and there I said two things. One is, I am utterly disappointed with the quality of and the actions of the political leaders. They are knowledgeable, they are quite all right, but they are not doing things which is helpful to the economy, doing things which will better the economic conditions of the masses. They are doing things so that they can stay on in power and make money. Secondly, corruption has become a way of life now. So I said that I think perhaps our political system has to be changed. The Westminster parliamentary system, which came to India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and we also copied that. It has not brought stability to the political stability of the country. So I am for directly elected Prime Minister and a President elected by the two houses of the Parliament. Because we are a federal system, we need a President also to mediate between, if there is any lack of understanding between provinces, between center and provinces, we need a President and directly elected Prime Minister. So the political system has to be changed. And the bureaucrats, I think, the ability of the bureaucrats, when I compare with the ability of the bureaucrats in neighboring countries, they are quite up to the mark. They are quite good. But all their talent is used to serve the orders of the politicians. And in the whole process, they have also become corrupt. So corrupt politicians and corrupt bureaucrats, the change has to take place.
Great, sir. How can we help the youngsters now to learn from your story? What are some of the things that you would like to say as a parting note to all the youngsters that are watching this show? Something that we can learn from your life and your years of experience. Today, as I speak to you, we spoke before the show, you're already 95. That is a century of experience, a century of transformation. What are the things we can learn from you, sir?
I have despaired from the political system as it is prevalent now. Again, elections is going to take place. All the elections, I led a group called GEOC, General Election Observation Committee. We did very good work checking whether the elections were held according to the regulations of the Election Commission. But those requirements were fulfilled. But the result is we have politicians who have been elected because of the power of money, and because they have to spend money, they must do something when they are in power to get back to recover expenditure they have made. So I think the system has to change.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for that parting note. It's been very inspiring listening to you. And more than anything else, sometimes I felt like I was listening to, honestly, the story of a film, because your life has been so colorful and you've got these wonderful experiences. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing them with us without a filter and so honestly talking about your lives and all the things that shaped you and made you who you are today. A true icon that we all look up to. Thank you so much, sir.
Really, I am not up to that, but it was a pleasure having you in my house. And you asked very pointed questions, and I hope I have replied to you earnestly, whatever feelings I have.
As honest as you absolutely could. Thank you so much, sir, for that. Thank you. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Mannsi.
Listening to Sir's story today was almost like watching a biopic unfold in front of my eyes. It was like we had managed to read a page of the history of Nepal. I was also very impressed by Sir's progressive thoughts, his ideas, and how aware he is of the modern world and what's happening in the world right now all across. It was very inspiring to listen to Sir's words when he spoke about how people like you and me can contribute to the betterment and prosperity of the nation. Thank you, sir, for not just being a legend, not just for being somebody who is a part of our history, who's done so much for the country, but thank you for being the wonderful human being you are. Thank you.